Here we go. Si vous voulez bien prendre vos places, please take your place we'll begin. Bonjour et bienvenue à la conférence de presse pour
Hi,
Bergman
and
Island.
welcome to this press conference for Bergman Island. I always wondered how we're meant to pronounce Bergman. Berman? Who are you asking? Someone probably taught you.
Bergman.
Berman.
Alors, on va dire Bergman Island.
Let's say Bergman Island.
Yes, but the R, not everyone can do that R.
Encore
It's a very special R. Of course, you're Scandinavian.
Nous avons une table remplie.
We have a table filled with very talented people. I will start, as usual, with the end of the table with the film's producer, who, yet again, this year is very visible in Cannes because he also brought us the film Annette for Léas Carras, and he is the producer, Charles Gilibert. Next to him, we have the director of photography, who has already signed the photography of two previous films of Mia Hansen-Love, Things to Come and Eden. He, of course, is one of the most striking directors of photography of French cinema, Denis Lenoir. Next, we have a quartet of extraordinary actors. To my left, in the role of Hampus, Hampus Nordenson, who in the film is preparing his cinema diploma. At the other end of the table, we have Anders Danielsen-Lee in the role of Joseph. He has often played for French directors, Rodin and Personal Shopper, but he is also known for his roles in Scandinavian films like 31st of August, Anders Danielsen-Lee. A little further to the right, we have Tim Roth, who plays the role of the director, Tony. He has directed The War Zone, and in a very different role from Bergman Island. He is also linked to Quentin Tarantino's cinema. A great pleasure to welcome Tim Roth.
Vicky KRIEPS
plays the role of Chris, the female director in the film. She appeared in Phantom Thread, a performance where she won the Best Actress award at the Lille Film Festival. Vicky KRIEPS.
Cinéaste de la subtilité et de la justesse.
Master of subtlety and truthfulness, it is a great pleasure to welcome Mia Hansen-Love, who presents a film which is in competition.
Mia, pour briser la glace.
Mia, to break the ice.
Qu'est-ce qui a été le déclic pour ce film?
What made you want to produce this film? I think more than anything, it was the desire to make a film on the topic of creation within a couple, inspiration, who are trying to understand how it works. It has always seemed to me somewhat miraculous to manage to write a screenplay, to make a film. It is an activity which I always thought was very fragile, and yet I have made films, and so I thought it would be interesting for me to try to understand why, despite this frailty, there was nevertheless a strength which allowed me to continue to write and to make progress. And I think the film really came together when I thought about the island of Fora as a possible set for the story. Thank you. We already have several questions. We will start to the left.
Hi, Gunnar Relin from Stockholm. There is a very funny quote in one of the reviews today saying that Sweden is the country that produced the master of glue, Ingmar Bergman, and the master of Swedish pop, upbeat pop, ABBA. And he said that must say something about the Swedes, but the reviewer can't really say why. what it is. Can you comment on that? Why are we like this?
Je sais pas, si vous êtes suédois,
I don't know if you're Swedish. Perhaps you can answer the question better yourself
que moi,
than I can.
pour moi, la Suède n'est pas que ça.
For me, Suede is not only that, of course, even though ABBA is a group which I like a lot and which ends up in the film. The Winner Takes It All is a song which I listen to a lot. ABBA is not necessarily as important for me as Bergman Cinema, but this group has its place in my world.
Question ici, monsieur.
A question over there, the gentleman.
Mia, je voudrais te poser une question.
Mia, I would like to ask you a question in English.
You've been to Forum many times, but can you say when you came there the very first time, did you already get the idea that this would be a perfect location for a film, and how did the idea for the film rise from the visit of Forum?
Je me souviens très bien de ma première visite à Foreux. J'avais
I
déjà.
have good memories of my first visit to Foreux. I already had this project in mind, but I wasn't certain. I wasn't sure whether the reality of the island and also its intimidating aspects would allow me the possibility of making this film. But in fact, the first time I went to Foreux, it was for a very short period of time, only 3 days. But it was an unforgettable moment, especially because there I met Hampus, who was there at the time and who has presented one of my films. We got on very well together, and he made me discover the island in his particular way, and I think that is also what triggered the fiction for me, and so I think the film owes a lot to this.
Évidemment, Ingmar Bergman est en
Of
présence.
course, Ingmar Bergman is present throughout the film.
Derrière le projet.
Was he behind the project?
Ou est-ce que c'est
Was it because of Foro or was it because of the cineast?
what the meaning of, for you personally, was making a film that's set in Ingmar Bergman's territory, homeland?
Non, bien sûr, c'est Bergman qui m'a amené à Foreux.
Of course, it was Bergman which took me to Foro and not Foro which brought me to Bergman. Bergman's aura is phenomenal, as for many other filmmakers, and Bergman is a filmmaker who counts a lot for me, even though, of course, I've never wanted to imitate his style, and even though the style of his films and mine seem to have very little in common. However, they have struck me, nourished me, inspired me. I remember having understood something about his works when I read something at the time of his death, which struck me. It was about his sensuality, the life that he had, his great appetite for life. It was in contradiction with the image I had of Bergman as a very austere, very cold filmmaker. It was something also which touched me in his cinema. I think if there hadn't been this sensuality, this gaze on women, human beings, nature, I think Bergman's cinema wouldn't touch me as much. And this sensuality is something which I revealed again in a different way in Fora.
Hampus, perhaps you'd like to weigh in on that first, since...
To weigh in on Bergman, and it's a tough question for me, but what I was always amazed of, seeing or showing me at Fora, what was so nice, I've been there a lot, I'd spent a lot of time there, but I never realized how beautiful the contemporary Fora. A lot of people come there to see Bergman and see his heritage, but Mia saw something that I had never seen really. I kind of felt it, but I never understood it. How beautiful the context and the environment is there now, and how strong this film that Mia was making was. So when she presented or said that she was interested in making something about this, I was amazed by just the possibility of this wonderful project, and I was caught by the spirit. Like I have to do everything to protect or do anything I can to make this project happen as soon as possible. And it was just such a beautiful journey to see something that I know Mia understood, but I felt it but could not catch it in the same way. And now when I see the film, it's so good. It's beautiful.
Tim, was Bergman a presence for you, meaningful for you during the shoot or before?
Well, before the shoot, Bergman for me was somebody whose films I watched when I was beginning, when I was trying to be an actor. There were a group of us that were in London, and we're still at school, and we would go to all-night showings of Bergman's films or Weida's films, or we just wanted to be in the movies, and we thought we would be cool if we were watching these brilliant filmmakers. We thought we were cooler than we were, but we were moved by them. We were, I remember the feeling of sitting through an all-night Bergman kind of bonanza and being moved by the performers and being moved by the landscape and being moved by the cinematography and the stories themselves. And then I moved on. Life happens and you move on. And then when this came, when this bizarre journey presented itself to me, you were already, I think, halfway through, in a sense. You had already been and started filming, and then a year had gone by, and anyway, I got sent this story, and I thought that it was an utterly extraordinary and beautiful and magical tale, set in the present, but also set in the past. In the past being, in a sense, this place, and the history that it, love it or hate it, has put on it. And so I put that aside and thought, do I want to play this character? Yes. Do I want to work with these guys? Absolutely yes. And so I went. And you're not prepared, and I'll wrap up pretty soon, but you're not prepared as an outsider for what you're about to see. You come in, you fly into the mainland, and then you get on that ferry, that 6-minute ride, right? And in you come. And the adventure begins as soon as as soon as you get on the ferry, I think. And you get off, and it's a very different world. It was a quiet place for me. It was an easy existence to have, just for 6 or 7 weeks, I guess we were there. It was and then you settle, and I have one of my sons with me, and you settle, and there you are, and then we go to work, and we squabble about our stuff as the creative juices flow, and she drives me crazy, Vicky, so I have to deal with that. And we made, I think, the launch pad for the characters in the film. And we made it in this extraordinary environment, this beautiful and gentle and violent environment with the ocean or with the waves and stuff. It was magical for me. And then a year later, 2 years later, this happens. And it's still part of the journey. I love it. So I don't know if that answers anything that you set out to ask me, but I love that place. And I miss the pizza.
Extraordinary. I don't know if Vicky or Anders, you'd like to add something.
I might add that I think for any film actor, it's obviously inspiring to go to Fårö and shoot a film there about or associated with Bergman, in Bergman's house and all that. But I remember thinking that there's a risk that you might get too obsessed with the history, and you have too much respect for this great filmmaker. Because we are supposed to make a film here and now, and it was a love story. So I felt that it was important to think that this is also a contemporary story, and it's thematically related to Bergman's films in many ways. It's about relationships and communicating in a relationship. But it's important to be inspired by those great masters, but you should never try to emulate them or copy them. And but I just had a great time on photo, and I can't wait to go back.
Vicky.
Sorry, I'm very nervous. I knew Bergman, I think from the Cinematheque in Luxembourg, but not really well, because the women in his movies, something scared me, or maybe it moved me too much, and I was too young to understand, and it unsettled me just a little bit too much, I think. So when Mia sent me the script, the approach to the script was so natural, I didn't even think about it, that then watching his movies felt wrong, and I kind of took the decision to do the opposite and not learn anything more about this man who's supposed to be a master and this big ghost walking around cinematheques. And so I went there really, I said it before, but really like kind of a David against Goliath, you know, because I was interested to see what happens if I would just go and not know what everyone is talking about when they talk of this man, you know. And that was very interesting because it allowed me to kind of get to know his fridge and his coffee machine before I knew his whole body of work, you know. And I mean, my work is to fantasize and dream, so I was dreaming, you know, who this man might have been and where he was eating and, you know, where he was having his trouble in his marriage and, you know, so that was, I think, a really good way to approach him. And then after the movie, I watched his films, and of course, I then realized that I had grown and now I could relate to the women very much, but I just had been too young before.
Thank you. Denis Lenoir
has just talked about ghosts. Was the landscape of a Fora haunted by these memories, by this legendary director of photography? No, not really. Just like Mia and like the others in the crew have said, despite all the love and the respect that we can have for Ingmar Bergman, and also for the great Sven Ingvist, on the island, there is a photo of him holding a brownie and saying, "I can do handheld too." So, of course, I took a snapshot on my iPhone and I shared this photo with my friends and colleagues. No, I think that the image of a film is, first of all, the landscape, but, of course, the interiors, but the image of the island is in each shot. However, for Ingvar and Sven, maybe not so much.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Question au centre, oui.
A question in the center. Hello. From Le Maître Cinéma, the Sacred Mountain of Bergman.
Le trouble qu'il peut y avoir aussi entre l'homme et la séparation entre l'homme et la
also the separation between the man and the artist, and this creation in a couple, but there is also the relationship angle. I was therefore wondering how you constructed the film during the writing, but also in all the other aspects. The question is for Mia and for the actors, how you constructed this couple
qui vous ressemble.
Who resembles you.
Je sais pas si le couple me ressemble.
I'm not sure whether the couple resembles me as much as that.
Mes films sont perçus comme
All my films are perceived as autobiographical because they are very personal films where one can easily find similarities with my own life. and a certain dimension of my life. And for this film, it is particularly true because I am myself a female director, and and the main role in this film is a female director. And this film is very intimate and personal for me. It's not necessarily due entirely to the factual elements of the film. It's a film that I wrote when I was alone on the island. It's not a film that I wrote when I was with my partner. And I think that is already a very big difference. And it is not a film that I wrote while suffering, whereas my heroine is writing while suffering, which of course is something which has happened to me in the past. Writing is something which is not easy for me, but this film, in fact, I wrote with a lot of pleasure and a lot of ease, which was almost disconcerting for me. So there is something which is organically linked to my life, whilst at the same time it is totally a fictional film, and I didn't write it from a theoretical standpoint, just like all my films. My films are never theoretical. That is not the relationship I have with writing. It is a film which came to me. For a long time, I wanted to make a film about a couple and creativity as a couple, and it is living on the island and the experiences which I accumulated there, writing the film, and the portrait of this couple found its reality.
And the actors? Did
you? So, en français,
in French, because you're using the word construction, I actually prefer to use the word deconstruction. I don't try to construct a persona. I try to deconstruct a character, and I try to find elements there, and then maybe rebuild, reconstruct. And that is something which is very easy and natural for me, because I'm also an artist and a presenter, an actress, and I have children. It was therefore easy for me to understand that universe. In regards to the construction of a couple, the most important thing is to always be present and to listen to the other. So I was there, I listened to the island, I listened to Bergman's Ghost, and I listened to the film as it was being made.
Eating pizza was part of the construction of our married life, right? I was talking to you.
What?
About pizza.
Right.
Because they asked how we worked, how we constructed. I said we ate pizza.
It was somewhat like this.
Microphone, please, Tim.
Yeah. Oh. Hi. It's for just on as constructing that character and how that was. It seemed to me that it required invisibility as far as performance is concerned, which is a hard thing to achieve. So it should look as though it's me going through this on this journey. It's absolutely not, but it has to look that way. It has to have that kind of the camera is on us. We have the script with us, but we are also us. It's not the case at all. And so I went about just on the personal level, the performance in that way, and then taking that and working with Vicky, we as we had arrived at our characters and with ourselves personally and off stage, as it were, we developed a rapport that I think we still have today, which is it was easy for us to play, and I think the characters needed at times, and you did, and Mia, I think, was that there was playfulness within it.
Yeah.
This is the normal dialogue of life. Yeah. But there's other stuff at play, obviously for you, and to a certain extent for me. But it's your story, so we constantly bantered and constantly played, and then gradually just ease that into Mia's frame and into her world and using her story. And then it was delightful, absolutely delightful.
Actually a good question, because, we talk of European film and different and world cinema. And what was not so easy, or we had to really kind of also find, is that we come from different cinema languages, you know. I mean, you come from this Hollywood kind of Quentin Tarantino. I mean, not that I've ever been near, but I understand kind of what it represents. And I come from this more very European, psychological, you know, plot-driven. And so we had to really find a language, I think. And that was not that easy. It was then, once we found it, it was easy. And I think what we found was playfulness, like children. I think children are the best example of how we can all live as one in this planet, you know, because they don't judge, they just, you know, play instead of fighting. And so I think that's what we found, a playfulness, not taking ourselves too serious, you know, saying, how do you call it, des gros mots to one another? No, but I think really that was, insulting each other, for instance, very important. To not take yourself too serious.
We have a question on the right. Guess you are the what?
Clutch magazine. So the story of the film shows how the line between the plot and the real life of the characters gets blurred. So hasn't happened to you in real life when your relationship with some actors have changed or become influenced in any way because of the character they played? Tim?
Me? It's a trick question. I don't think so. I think I've been fairly lucky in that I've been able to, or I've worked at it that way, that I leave the character by the door as soon as I finish that day. I'm not, I don't do the method actor thing, the Methodists. I'm not one of them. I think of it as it's acting, and then you do your stuff. Sometimes you have tough days, obviously. Sometimes you have very difficult scenes that you have to play, and they do take more time than others to recover from, and that's a normal part of the process. But no, I've never, I don't carry mine with me. I get rid of them as soon as I'm done with them. I think it's healthier that way.
The center, yes, please.
Nana, Frank Rasmussen, Danish newspaper Politiken. There's a bit of a dialogue in the film about the cruelty of Bergman, both in his films and in his personal life. And I'd like to ask Mia HANSEN-LOVE whether you have been able to separate the art from the artist and how you do that, and also your thoughts on how, because it's something that we discuss a lot these days, if you can do that, and if anybody else wants to say something, you're more than welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for saying my name the Danish way. Oui, on parle beaucoup de ça en ce moment.
Yes, we talk a lot about this at the moment, but I wrote the film before Me Too.
En tout cas, je l'ai pas écrit dans l'idée de répondre à ces questions-là.
I didn't write it with the idea of answering those kinds of questions or bringing any comment to it. Of course, things can happen later on, and elements of the film can take on a particular resonance within these debates.
Je n'envoyais pas des messages
I was not trying to send messages
pédagogiques
or
écrivant ces scènes.
Or to give lessons.
C'est vrai que la question, c'est juste une question que je trouve intéressante, passionnante,
question which I find interesting.
Il est difficile de répondre en quelques
It is difficult
pour cette question qui
to answer this question in only a few words because,
of
course, can we separate the artist from their works? I don't think it is easy to answer this question.
De fait, est-ce que c'est vraiment deux choses différentes?
Are they really two different things?
Mais je n'ai pas de point de vue. Pour autant, je n'ai pas de point de vue. Moi, personnellement, je n'ai pas de point de vue moral.
I don't have a moral point of view,
opinion
of Bergman's Island. I'm not distributing good or bad points.
Je ne l'ai pas connu. Je pourrais
I have not known Bergman personally. Perhaps I would be able to have a moral angle if I'd known him personally. The only angle I can have and which I can argue is the one I have in his film, and I have a lot of admiration for his films. Of course, that great artists can can be cruel. I think that is nothing new.
Mais ça m'empêche pas de.
And it doesn't
En tout cas,
prevent
est-ce que ça
me,
m'empêche d'aimer le
or
cinéma de
rather,
Bergman
does
si
it
jamais,
prevent
si
me
tant est que
from
Bergman ait vraiment
appreciating
été
Bergman's
cruel
films?
dans sa vie, ce que
If
je ne
Bergman
sais
has
pas,
truly been cruel in his life, I'm not
m'empêcherait
certain of that.
d'aimer ses films.
But that even if that were the case, that would not prevent me from liking his films.
Charles Gilbert, j'ai une question pour vous.
Charles Gilbert, I have a
Vous
question for
apportez
you.
deux films très différents.
You are bringing to
Un
us two
film,
different films, very different films.
Lumière et un autre beaucoup plus noir.
One which is full of light and another which is a lot more noir.
Sur ces deux projets.
Do you need to be schizophrenic to work on these two projects at the same time?
Non, non, c'est pas utile.
No, that is not particularly useful.
Non, bah moi je travaille principalement avec des auteurs.
I mainly work with auteurs,
Même plus qu'avec les œuvres
perhaps
elles-mêmes.
even more than with the works
En
themselves.
l'occurrence, Bergman Island, c'est
And
une
Bergman
relation
Island
avec Mia
is
Hansen-Love qui s'est
a
construite
relationship
sur,
with Mia Hansen-Love, which was built over several films.
De voir son travail arriver à une telle maturité.
To see her work reach this pinnacle of maturity and power is something very interesting for a producer,
Bergman Island, c'est
especially
vraiment,
because Bergman Island,
Annette est un film sur lequel je suis arrivé assez tard.
Annette is a film I arrived at fairly late, and it did kind of explosive work in order to be able to do the work. But beyond the relationship with Mia and to see things through her eyes and to see her works evolve,
C'est aussi la naissance d'un film.
it was also the birth of a film which I was able to follow right from the start, just like the character of Tim in the film, who is a producer for Vicky's character. Thank you.
Bonjour, Lomax Cinema.
Hi, Lomax Cinema.
J'ai deux questions.
I have two questions. The first,
La narration.
regarding the narrative.
Il y a plusieurs niveaux de mise en
There are several levels which reflect one to the other and which at times mix. I wanted to know how you thought out the screenplay.
avoir un récit postmoderne.
Did you want to build a postmodern story? And the second question is, initially, did you want the film to look like one of Bergman's films or to be inspired by Bergman's aesthetics?
Non et non. C'est-à-dire
No
que
and no.
j'avais surtout pas envie que mon film ressemble à un film de Bergman.
Especially didn't want my film to look like one of Bergman's films because I'm too much in awe of Bergman's films to want to do some sub-Bergman film. That would be the worst possible thing for me. Just like I appreciate Eric Romer's or François Truffaut's films, but I don't want to imitate them. I've always wanted to try to find my own language.
Ce qui a rendu le film possible, d'ailleurs, c'est le
made the
fait
film
que
possible
j'ai eu le sentiment en arrivant à Foreux qu'un
when I
espace
arrived
était
in
possible
Foreux,
pour
I
moi,
felt
qu'il y avait
that there was a space for me, a free space which I could explore.
Comme le disait Anders tout à l'heure,
First of
le
all,
film est quand même au
because, as
présent,
Anders
même
was
s'il
saying
parle de choses qui
earlier,
ont à voir avec
the
le
film
passé,
is
je crois qu'il est
present
quand même
even
résolument, et comme le
it
disait
is
Denis aussi,
about things from the past, as Denis was saying.
je ne sais faire qu'un film
I only know how to make a film in the present tense, and so I film with who I am, my gaze, my sensitivity, things which are in the present for me, and that is what was dominant for me. I also had the sense of discovering a film, an island which was not necessarily discovered by Bergman. He filmed his own demons and what he projected on the island. So there is another island. He is everywhere on this island, but at the same time, he is not there, and so there was this space of freedom for me. So that was the first question, or rather the second question. For the first, it is not at all a theoretical approach. I never thought that it would be great that this film should have these abysses. What I wanted to do was to seize the inspiration, the fear of heights that we can get from this abyss approach, and to be inspired by things that I had experienced. At the end of the film, I realized that myself, I did not even know how to dissociate from the things, or to separate the things which I had actually experienced and lived from what was in the film. And I realized that it is that kind of process that I talk about in the film. And that was what was cathartic for me in filmmaking, to recreate fiction, to use reality to make something which is that, but which also transcends it and is something else and wants to go beyond it. That is what is exhilarating for me. So sometimes I feel that I am on the edge of an abyss, and it is that feeling that the form tried to express. Thank you.
Questions? Mais il y a une trinité de femmes. Il y a vous derrière.
There is a trinity of women. There is you behind the camera, you as an author, and Vicky as a main character who plays a director. The first time we have a director in one of your films, and there is also the character which Vicky constructs. I will put the question to Mia and also to Vicky. How you observe this other actress, the fact that she is a director in another dimension, looking at her work, what was that like for you? And Vicky, you were on the one hand a director in real life, but also the director which you play in the film.
I'm just wondering, you're caught between two directors. On the one hand, you're a real director who's directing you, and then the other director who you're writing.
C'est vrai que je me retrouve, enfin je retrouve certaines dimensions de ma personnalité ou de ma vie à travers ce personnage comme à travers celui de
certain aspects of my life and experiences
évidemment,
in the film.
mais au fond, je crois m'être toujours identifiée à mes personnages et à tous.
C'est-à-dire même always identified myself with my characters.
J'aime tous les
surprising as it may seem, I
jamais
like all the characters in my film. I could never make a film against a character. I always have empathy for my characters. I have previously made films where the main characters were men, and I could identify just as easily with them. Of course, there is an even greater intimacy and something specific, which I cannot deny in this film. The fact that it is about a female filmmaker, which allowed me to say things I could not say before about the vocation, about writing, about the certain sense of frailty. But empathy is what drives me in my filmmaking. You say that you are not a theoretical writer. It is rare that you go from a male to a female protagonist in your films. Is this something which was essential for you for this subject, for this screenplay? I have made about as many films with male main characters as films with female main characters. I don't think we are assigned to a gender because we are male or female. Thank God we can be a woman and make a portrait of a man, or conversely.
Le désir, enfin, qui me guide, mais je
desire which guides me.
But
I think and I hope that I can direct men just as well as women, especially as for me there can be a lot of female features in a man, just as vice versa. So I never reduce my film characters to their gender.
I'll come back to you.
So you asked how you mentioned that I'm caught between the real director Mia, the director I portray, then the director my person then creates, and I would add a few other people. I think I was caught in all of this, and I was also caught between private me and the working me or the artist. And yesterday I was very moved when I saw the film, and I think I was even crying, and I felt a certain vertige. So that's why I'm saying it, because you just said vertige. So this vertigo, I think, is the center the movie actually, and I now understand why I was so moved, because, you know, I was caught, I think, but it was to me also like a catharsis. So I think doing the movie over 2 years gave me the possibility to maybe become the artist I am, because before I was again caught between being this person who has done her life the way she wanted, and you know, no one knew me and everyone left me alone, and then suddenly I did a movie that many people watched, and many people were then also seeing me or talking about me. So my fear was then, as a creator, to lose my creation, because suddenly something had changed. And I think as an artist, you always look for inspiration and creation. How can you create? And Mia is creating from this place of vertigo that she has, you know, in front of her private life as well as the movie. And I think this is the center of the film, that you have to let go. So what I learned over the making of this movie is to let go. And we all have to let go, because there is no such thing as like the reality. And I think if you allow the vertigo and you allow the vulnerability, you can then find your way as an artist. So, yeah.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. That is all the time we have, unfortunately. I remind the TV audience that the film will be released this Wednesday, 14th of July. I warmly thank our guests.